So in this video we're going to create a custom brush. So to do this, I've put a link on Moodle page which you will find here, an activity 4. Videos obviously haven't been up yet because I'm recording it now, and what that should do is take you to this image. If it doesn't, Google Clouds, find this one. You will find that if you just do a general search, you will get lots of texture clouds that wouldn't be suitable for what we're trying to achieve. I mean, that's not loading up, so we'll not focus on that for now. So what we're going to do is create a custom brush, which we're then going to use to paint clouds onto our scene, just to give it a little bit more atmosphere. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is download that image, open it up in Photoshop, and you will get this. What you are then required to do is go to the selection tool. If we pick the square one, it will be more beneficial. I want you to pick a cloud. So in the last test run I did, I've selected this one down here, but this time I think we will go with this one down here. Okay, so nice and square, hold shift as you select, push Control C, no, and we'll go to edit and go to copy, and I'm going to create a new scene. So go file, new, and you can call this custom cloud brush. I'm going to call this number 2 because it's the second one I've done. Now you'll see here that the image is actually going to be created in the size that I've copied here, and but what I'm going to do is, yeah, we'll keep it at that. I don't see why not. We'll click OK, which means that image will fit nicely into our scene here. I'm going to push Control V, which will paste it in, and then push Control and 0, which will bring it to full screen. As you can see, this is very low resolution image. So ideally, so that's one I made earlier. You know, we'd want probably a higher quality image or bigger cloud to actually play with. So let's copy another one. Let's go for this one here. So I'm going to hold shift again because obviously it needs to be square. In fact, actually I'm going to take this whole sort of section here. So I'm going to hold shift and I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to take these 3, I think, push Control C and go file, new, and yeah, I'll rename it later. For now I'll just kind of stick with this. So what I'm going to do is just tidy this image up. So first thing I want to do is keep it as a solid object. So what I don't want to do is have these sections in, because we're going to end up drawing and having a straight line going through our image, which wouldn't be beneficial at all. So basically anything that is not inside this circle, I'm going to erase and hide. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select the blue parts of the image. So I'm going to go select that and select, and we're just going to go to similar and see how that looks. And I think we've actually got a really nice selection happening there. I mean, there are some gaps, but generally speaking, that's not a bad selection at all. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to paint this in black. So it's going to increase my brush size, and I'm just going to paint all of this in black. And we're then going to draw around. So I want to go to the lasso tool. So we've used the polygonal, but this time I'm going to use just the lasso. So I'm going to push Control D to deselect, and I'm actually just going to draw around this line that I sort of drew earlier, and just fit that in there. And then I'm going to go to select, and I'm going to go to inverse, because I don't want to select the inside of this. I want to make everything else on the outside black. So I'm going to select and I'm going to go inverse, and I'm going to get the brush and wrong colour, wrong tool, sorry, that's the eraser, and I'm just going to paint all of this in, and I'll push Control D, and then I'm just going to tidy up these sections here. Okay, and just I want to make the brush smaller, just gives yourself a bit more control. And it's a bit pixely there, so I'm just going to paint that in as well, paint these bits in. So yeah, we'll just get that bit in there. So again, very quickly we can start to pop those up. So the next thing to do is to desaturate the image. So I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, and Desaturate. Where are you? So the bottom. And that will turn it to a grayscale image. I'm just going to hide that that we did before. Now again, the contrast on the clouds isn't too great, so they're not really that clear, not that well defined. So we're going to go to Image, and we're going to go to Adjustments, and we're going to go to Levels, and I'm going to pull the black sections up, and I'm going to pull the white ones down just to create a bit more vibrancy. And now you can start to see all of those subtle and small shadows appear within the image. Okay, and I think that's kind of cool. So I'm going to click OK. And the next thing to do is to invert the whole image. So I'm going to go to Adjustments, I'm going to go to Invert or Control I, and we'll end up with this. And the final stage is to select the image, and then go to Image, and go to not Image, sorry, go to Edit. Is it? Yeah, Edit and Define Brush Preset. And you can, I'm going to call this number 2 because it's the second one that I've made. Push OK. So if we go back to our original image, and I'm going to push Control and plus just to zoom in. Just going to hide that, and I'm going to create a new layer. So right here, I'm going to call this Clouds. And if we go to our brush, you will see our new image. Now it's coming out black because obviously we have black selected, which could create a really cool cloud if that's what you want to do. Or you can select the white ones, and as you can see, we are pretty much just directly now painting on those clouds. What we don't want is it to be so obvious, so I'm going to take the opacity and turn it down like so, and I can layer these up, but obviously it's getting quite repetitive. So what we can do is click this icon here, which will take us to our brush settings. If you can't see it, you may need to go to View or Window, sorry, and turn on Brush, or push F5. And what I'm going to do is push Scattering on this menu, turn it on, and we can sort of turn that scatter up, as you can see. Okay, and we can paint the sky as easy as that. I mean, it's still quite visible, which we don't want. We only want it to be really subtle. It's almost like about 8% look. And what we can do then is obviously create another layer with a small increase in the opacity, and this time I'm going to turn on the angle jitter, so turn it around as well, and this time we're just going to add a little bit more in there, which is kind of cool. And yeah, and again we can increase that up if we want to play around with the opacity, but again it becomes very distracting, so we only want to do just by a small amount really, otherwise our background image starts to become undistinguishable. And obviously yeah, we know we can turn the other one down as well if we still want to maybe make that a little bit smaller. But we can use our brush. The point is that we can make a brush, we can make any shape, we can make it any size. You can also download other presets from the internet. I got a really cool brush, like leaf pack with a magazine, and yeah, I think I'm gonna I can use some of these on the trees, and as I say, there's no reason why you can't use them. Create your own. So if we find one that's going to be quite useful for a tree, so I don't think that one is. Can't really see the icons too well here. If we change them to large thumbnail, there we go. you know, something kind of, there you go, actually got silhouettes of trees there, that's pretty cool. So again, I mean, that is quite big for what we want. But again, if we zoom in, it's really sort of cool effects, and we can create a new layer, and we can take the brush size right down. And again, it's quite squared there. So again, we can add a bit of a jitter to that. So we can do an angle twist, and obviously we can paint that in a probably in a darker colour. Create so it's really sort of cool texture. But again, and you know, we don't have to have the opacity on that up as well that much. We can just have it as a subtle effect. But again, I mean, these clouds in this version are incredibly distracting. In my other version that I did, is it this one? Yeah, I made it so they were more linear, more like fog. And again, similar sort of thing. I think the values are too high on those there. I'd probably turn them down some more, probably on both. So yeah, we can end up with a more sort of effect. You'll notice on here it's not going around the fence, so obviously the closer we are, the closer the object is, the more visible it will be. So what we can do on this is actually select the fence, and on those layers we can start to erase that, or we can create a layer mask. So we can select this icon down here, and basically on this layer, anything we paint white or black will change what it is on here. So on this layer mask, if we go and start painting this in, it will change that visibility. So if we go white, go to our brush, and oh, I don't want that brush, let's go back. Let's go for default, and it's not letting me do it. Why not? Okay, let's try it with black, and maybe I need to do it with on the other layer. So let's go back to this one, and what we need to do is, so we'll create the mask, and if we, so I'm probably going to delete that one again, and yeah, it was on the wrong layer. So if we just go through and select our fence, there we go, no, wrong one, that was the guide, there we go. And on this layer, if we start to paint, we can hide that layer. Now obviously we probably want our fence to be covered further down, so we can actually use the gradient tool and actually paint that on. There we go. And if we go to our first clouds layer, there we go, and if we just do a quick mask, Control D, do a mask, and just select our fence again. So it's a bit back and forward, but you should be used to that by now. And then on this layer we'll do the same thing, just add the gradient tool in, and if we push Control H it will hide it, but it'll still keep that selection, as you can see. And so now we have that sort of disappearing into the distance to us, which is pretty cool. I also sort of want a bit more visibility from the ground upwards, just generally on these layers. So I'm actually going to, on the layer mask, so actually we did that previously on the layer itself, didn't we? So let's bring that back. Nope. So right, let's just add that back in. There we go, on the layer mask. And a good thing about doing this on the layer mask is that you'll be able to, you can paint in white and it will bring it back. So if I wanted to bring it back, I could get the brush and I can go, right, let's bring it back there. Ooh. So yeah, So oh, it's not. There we go. Right. So if I paint there now, we can actually start to bring bits of that back, which is pretty cool, pretty useful as a non-destructive process. So on these layers, I'm actually going to add a gradient in, and I need to actually turn off the selection. So I'm going to push Control D, and I'm just going to bring that up to the top here, and I'm going to do the same thing. Oh, I've got the circle selected, so I don't want that. We want the whole bar. There we go, and I'm going to do the same thing on this mask as well. Just going to hold Shift, get a straight line go up, and yeah, that's kind of cool. Perhaps it's a little bit too intense, so I'm probably just going to take it down a little bit more. I still want to get this bit of the fence in, so I might angle that actually. No, it doesn't work. So it may be that what we do is select this section, so from sort of around here, oh sorry, my bad. So make the selection, we can get the gradient, and then we can hold Shift, and it's not doing it. Okay, now it is. So if we, there we go. So now we can see a bit more of our trees. We can, the fence is still covered and the house is still covered by a bit of fog. So again, you can play about that however you please. But again, as I say, if we wanted to bring that back, we can literally just get the brush, change it to white, and on this layer, just start to paint that back in. Okay. So if we wanted to bring elements of that back, and obviously, if we don't want it to be so obvious in terms of a hard edge, we can go back to our brush and we can turn the hardness down, and if we make the brush bigger, it will be a much softer transition, as you can see. And we'll just bring that across, and again we can always go back to black and change. Okay, change it. So those are a couple of techniques, and again very quickly I've sort of got this scene, a lot of atmosphere added through creating my own brush using layer masks, and using the brush tool. So I want you to go ahead and use a brush, finish this scene, and then start to think about how you can incorporate this, or if you want to use this method for creating your own comic. Okay, so yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So I will see you in the next tutorial, which will be for next week's lesson, where we'll be looking at vector brushes. Well, not vector brushes, sorry, but the pen tool, and creating vector graphics. Okay, cool.